on this one, and I'm going to turn it over to Clint Carlson, who's the program manager of digital education and academic technology at the CU School of Dental Medicine. Dental medicine, I should say. Clint, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining us this morning. What an awesome conference and a great keynote if you were just at that keynote speech. Wow. Just so many interesting conversations in this conference that we've got going on. And with the conference being remote, it's really interesting that we're getting, I think, a more diverse group of people to be able to join these conferences because of logistics or cost or distance or all of these things. I mean, it's really cool how the pandemic has kind of transformed conferences into something that's a little more global and collaborative and open for so many people to join. All right, so let's get started. We're covering a lot of topic today, and that's 75 minutes is going to go really quickly. And I want to make sure that we actually get into the creation of stuff, because that's going to be a big part of this workshop, is actually building things in a VR AR platform they're going to be discovering together. So let me just jump straight to my slides and we'll get rolling. So again, my name is Clint Carlson. I'm the program manager here in Colorado. I'm the program manager of digital education and academic technology at the Colorado University School of Dental Medicine. This workshop is going to have two parts. So one is me going through my slides and talking about the power and potential of building simulations inside of educational purposes. But hopefully we can jam through that real quick and we can hop into the VR space and start building things together. So I've created a sandbox platform for us, and we're all going to be creating a parade to celebrate this conference. And then we can maybe share that out with other participant members after we're done with this workshop, so they can all see the creative celebrations that we've done, showing our enthusiasm for what we're doing here. So part one is just talking about the power of all of this, and then that part two is the actual workshop, which is the kind of the meat of the session here. Learning objectives, I'm not going to read these slides to you, but basically you're going to have an understanding of how AR, VR works and how they differentiate, because we're going to see them in two different places. You're going to be brainstorming along the way how to bring these types of technologies into the classroom. A big part of this workshop is that this is all VR, AR stuff that you could bring into your classroom on Monday. The cost is very low. Almost everything is web-based, what we're going to be building with. So you just need a browser. I mean, the barrier for building a VR, AR simulation experience that we're going to be doing today, as you'll see, because you'll have a parade done in the next 75 minutes. But really start thinking about how we can build this technology into existing lesson plans and curriculums. So we're not totally rocking the boat as we integrate this tech into education. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why we use simulations in education and in general. One, some things are just enormous. Impossible to do an engineering type construction project just in a classroom. There's just not room for that. Things are also extremely dangerous. So simulating a car crash or an earthquake is really difficult to do in a classroom outside of a real environment. But simulation allows us to kind of bring that into our learning environments. Things are also very, very far away and very, very expensive. So if we wanted to do anything relating to space or a better understanding of gravity on different planets, that's very difficult to do outside of the hypothetical in classrooms. And with COVID, collaboration has been really, really lacking. So really difficult to build collaborative learning environments where students and learners are working together and working well to create things. That's really part of the learning community that I think we've lost during the pandemic. That's maybe the most painful thing for us to try to bounce back from, is that we've got all of these students who've been working from home, and we've all been adjusting those teaching styles on how do we deliver content. But it's been really, really difficult to find collaborative projects for students to be working together and building that learning community, which is so important in education. It's something we've really been, most of us have been just completely lacking as we've been working remotely and struggling to all keep our heads above water. So here are some projects that I've been working on using the platform we're going to be working with today called CoSpaces. This was a What's on Your Virtual Plate project. This was a project students all around the world. I established this in Istanbul, Turkey, where I was working last year. And we had students from all around the world, in Tokyo, in Mexico City, in Moscow, all over Europe, South America, America. They were using virtual reality and augmented reality to demonstrate what they had for their last meal. And the purpose of this was, one, to get them into the door as far as using augmented reality as a learning tool and a creation tool, but also to kind of open that conversation about, all right, why is my meal here in Istanbul for lunch so much different than another similar student as me who's having lunch in Tokyo? Another student similar to me who's having their lunch in Mexico City. Why are our ingredients different? Why is the food coming from different places? What cultural aspects of our meal is dictating why my lunch is different than your lunch? It was a really, really powerful project. The link to it is here. It's hosted on CoSpaces because they love that project so much that we built it so that it was actually part of their curriculum. You can go to this site and you can go to this page, and there's a full lesson plan on how to use the application we're going to be using today to introduce this to any students, but then also to be able to view those plates of food from all over the world. And they all come with a great little voiceover of that student in your ears as you're tilting your phone or your iPad down at the table to see that plate of food appear in front of you. That student is also talking and explaining, hey, these ingredients came from my local store because they came from South Turkey, or where these ingredients came from. They need to do a little research. Really, really powerful stuff. And really the real power of this came less from the technology itself and even less from the AR itself, but using that as an opportunity to open those kinds of conversations for students to be talking about why are our meals different all around the world, and where does my food come from? How does my food get here? When we shared this with the school in Moscow from Istanbul, they were doing their research up there and where their food came from, and found that a lot of their fresh ingredients were actually coming from Turkey being shipped up to Russia. And then that opened a great chance for us to have a conversation with our students in Turkey and a conversation with the students in Moscow to be talking to each other and getting a better cultural understanding of how they're actually all connected. Another fantastic project that I've done with students in the last year is the City in the Sea project. So this was a hypothetical project of students working to build an actual government in the middle of the sea. So they needed to work out a tax system. They needed to work out the logistics of residential populations and a workforce and a tax system. I mean, a super complex full year project for these students. But then they also created their own little sections of the city that we then stitched together in VR so that everybody could walk down the streets of the city they had built together. A lot of fun, but then also use this as a way to kind of, what did they do? It really opened up the conversations for them to better understand the macroness of creating a large city. So why is your part of the block, why did you create that sewage system that's on the edge of my block where all of my people live? And then how do we resolve that? Who in this city is going to host the airport, which is going to take over their entire part of their city, but we all need it. So really using AR, VR, both for fun and engagement for students, but also to kind of open those doors up and have broader, deeper conversations about the subject matter that it's being applied to. We've also used a lot of AR, VR. Student created this Pearl Jam Christmas ornament for a teacher who was a huge Pearl Jam fan. So we 3D modeled it, and then we were able to prototype it in augmented reality. Coming right up. And we were able to do that to simulate what is this going to look like before we prototype it into a 3D printer, which is a cool application of using AR to sort of pre-prototype something. A lot of times the 3D printer is the prototype device, but using AR, we could prototype before we prototyped, before we actually created the object. This project was created again in the same platform we're going to be using today, CoSpaces. I'm convinced this is $1 million idea. So this student used VR and the 3D simulation place to create this simulation to show their concept for a idea that I think would save thousands of people's lives. So the concept was that instead of every classroom having a little map on the wall saying this is your exit plan if there's a fire, the students saw an issue with that, not necessarily taking into consideration where the fire was. So the student wanted to replace all those little maps with small little LED screens that would display real-time information on how you get out of the building. So if your way out of the building was go out the door and take a left, but that's where the fire is, this system would dynamically know where the fire alarms were pulled and direct traffic away from the incident, get what's your fastest way out of the school without sending you into the actual fire. A complex project made simple and easier to explain and demonstrate by creating that environment in an augmented reality experience so that we could see it from a variety of angles. Pretty powerful stuff. A bunch of our students also created this augmented art gallery. So we would walk up to a wall and we would see these art pieces. So there's a Monet that pops up. As we walk down the hallway, we'll see the Mona Lisa pop up. This started challenging sort of the paradigm of what it means to curate art and what it means to bring public art into personal spaces. Because this is an art gallery that was created by students for students, and that any students all around the world could print out these little pieces of paper, put it up on the wall, and see this art in the order that it was curated, but not necessarily in the space that the student intended it for. Again, super interesting conversations about the paradigm of what it means to curate art for other people and to put art in places where you haven't physically been to see that. Another project that we did, we 3D modeled our entire school, which was a semester-long project, of course. But then we were able to simulate things like climate change and see what happens if the sea level rises. What will the impact of our school be when that happens? Powerful stuff, difficult to do outside of a simulation. This is a 3D model of the Notre Dame, if you recognize it. Let me hop back there. What was great about this, that by coincidence, once we completed this project, the fire at the Notre Dame happened. And then we were able to take these 3D models and simulate where those fires were. We were able to rotate that entire model in 360 degrees and get a better understanding of that real-time news event that was happening just a few hours away from us. A second grader developed and designed her own Eiffel Tower. We then were able to bring it into CoSpaces, which we're going to be working with in a couple of minutes, and see what that tower would look like in a 360-degree image of Paris. We had some second graders also redesign their playground. They used the same tool we're using today, but they redesigned what they wanted their playground to look like and pitched it to the school board. We thought it would be a lot of silly stuff. We thought it would be Ferris wheels and roller coasters, but we were super surprised that once we gave the students agency to express what they wanted their play space to look like, we started seeing butterfly gardens and rivers flowing through and a lot more nature than I think we expected from second graders. They brought this into the school board meeting and just blew their minds with their types of ideas and the way they were able to present and communicate this using augmented reality. So this really is for everybody. Here's another project. We brought it into a space program and simulated gravity on different planets. So as we would go around, we would see this in our classroom because we're just holding our iPad up. But as we click on Mars, we would see Mars fall as if it were a ball on Mars. And it would give us a better understanding of what would a basketball fall like if we were transported in our classroom here to another classroom on Saturn. Super, super powerful stuff. Really impossible to really understand and grasp what a gravitational pull looks like without actually seeing it and almost feeling it. Simulation allows us to do this. I'll come back to this. This is a little bit about how we're using augmented reality in the School of Dental Medicine, because we are building these pieces out. I'll get to that more towards the end if we've got time, because I do want us to jump into the building of stuff. Because you're going to find this program is such a flexible sandbox that we're going to be covering things in our session today. And that's really just going to kind of skim the surface, because you'll find once you get in and start building stuff, because you're going to join the classroom I've set up for you, that their potential is just absolutely wild. Let me grab the chat. How we do? Did we create the gravitational pull activities yourself? We absolutely did. So given that assuming that we're going to have time towards the end of the session, I'll jump into some of those older projects and we'll actually look into them, and I can show you the 4 lines of code that I used to simulate the gravity on all those different objects in our solar system. More than just planets. Great question. Thank you. All right, so let's jump in and, oh, that's a later slide. let's jump in and start building. So your best case scenario for this workshop is if you've got this in Zoom on an iPad or a mobile device where you're actually doing the creation on a laptop or a desktop. It's not required. You can absolutely do all of these things on a mobile device. You'll just have to download the app. But if you've got a laptop or a desktop, you can do it right in the browser. You can follow along right with me on how I'm going to do that. The instructions are here, so you can do that really quickly now, or you can just follow along and catch this recording later and catch it and develop it yourself. So it is entirely up to you. If you want to just watch and observe how I'm building all of these things and how everybody else in this session is developing things, or if you can jump in and play along. So our link to do that is cospaces.io/edu. When you go to that page, in the top right, there'll be a register button. When you click that register button, it'll ask you if you're an educator or a student. For the purposes of this workshop, you are a student, and it's going to ask you for that code. This code is going to add you to my classroom where I've already set up a template parade for us celebrating this conference. So we'll hop into there. While we're doing that, let me put this information in the chat so I don't have to keep this slide up, because I'm going to also show you the behind the scenes of what me as the facilitator sees of my students as they are creating their space. Because you'll see as you join my CoSpace and as you join my classroom with that code, RCN2E, you're going to see that your spaces start popping up on my facilitator end. Let me jump over here and I'll leave the chat open in case there's any questions on getting involved. You'll see that in my CoSpaces, I've got these classes and I created this one for this conference. And when I come in, I can already see that 8 of you have already joined with that link. So fantastic, you're hopping in. And you'll see that you're all getting the same template that I've set up and created for you. So it's that road, a couple of houses, and then our rotating logo going on in the background. 9 of us are in, 10 of us are in. We'll give it a couple seconds for everybody else to hop in. Again, the link and the classroom code are both in the chat if you're catching up. If you got any questions, just drop that question in the chat and we'll take care of it. We've got about 12 of us. We'll give it another minute for anybody else to jump in, and then we'll assume that anybody else is just watching. This is a great group already that we're quick to go to that link and join my class. All right, we're up to 13. Let's see if we'll get to 15 and then we'll jump right in. Or we'll stick with 13. And I'll just keep moving along. If I'm going a little too fast or a little too slow, please say something in the chat. It's always hard to tell in these workshops how quick the group is. And you never know what kind of problems people might be having on their end with the browser. So, all good. So we've got a whole bunch of these in here. So here are my classes. Here are the classes that I have set up. So it allows me to create those templates and send it to individuals and then have them join that with that code. But as you can see, I've done this many, many, many times with my different classes and workshops and other presentations that I've done on this. When I go into CoSpaces, I've got these are my sort of buckets of simulation experiences that I've created or am creating. So what I did was I created this template for us, and then I pushed this to the class, which you then joined, and it automatically gives you that template. If we've got time after we've created our parades, I can go through that workflow for you, but you'll find if you go to set it up, it's very, very intuitive. All right, so everybody should be in their project. If you were in your class and you hadn't clicked on your little project here, go ahead and do so. It will bring you into an identical piece as what I have here, because it is templated. And the really great part about building simulations in CoSpaces is that it keeps things consistent across all of your students. So if you do an earthquake simulation, in the past, it was really, really tricky because you're building it on desktops and then shaking the table, and the earthquakes are never the same twice. But if we build these things in simulations, all of the students get the exact same earthquake that shakes and vibrates the same way over and over and over again, allowing us to build maybe a better doorway that doesn't collapse under the stress of an earthquake. and be able to stress test that over and over and over again to make sure that it's working the way we want to work it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this interface. So we're here, and if I click anywhere outside of the characters and interaction that are in here, so if I just click on this grass and hold down my mouse button and drag around, I can see that I can drag this whole environment 360 degrees. This really is a three-dimensional world that we're building. And there's pieces of this interface that we're going to talk about. There's pieces that we're not going to get into today, but we'll cover the core ones. The very first thing I want to show you is in the top right button is this play button. And when we click play, it's going to take us into the point of view of the camera that is by default in our scene. So think of, before we hit play, think of this as like the editor view, and then play is sort of the preview of what that VR, AR experience is going to look like. So if I click play, popped me down to that camera, my logo appears rotating, and I can use my arrow keys and fly around. I can click and drag my mouse and sort of view looking around. So it's not rotating that whole scene around like it did in the editor view. It's really the point of view of that camera. And again, you can use those arrow keys. WASD, if you're a gamer, also allows you to kind of fly through this environment. And we could change the speed of that and all those details as well. The great thing about CoSpaces is that it's such an open sandbox that almost everything is customizable. So anything that you would ask me in the chat of, hey, can I do this? Hey, can I do that? The answer is almost always yes. We might not be able to get to it in this workshop, but the answer is almost always yes. It is powerful. So to get out of my preview mode, we just click that back button, and we're back into our mode where we can start building and creating. Next piece that I want to show you is the opposite corner, all the way down here in the bottom left. We've got this tab with the library, upload, and environment. And first place we're going to go is into the environment. And you can see that the environment we currently have is kind of this mountainous landscape. Closest thing I could see to maybe Colorado. But we're not all in Colorado. So we're going to click edit the environment, and CoSpaces comes with a whole variety of these. So there's outer space, which is probably not applicable for our parade, but could be for something. We can go into the ocean. So this, you can see the ripples on that water happening. It's really amazing. This is all happening in the browser. We can go into a village. It's a little cramped for my parade, so maybe we won't do that one. Let's do one a little more outdoors. So you can pick the moon, or you could go anywhere you like. Or we can just hop back. This is similar to the one that I had with a little bit of snow. I like it with the grass. So I'm gonna go back to the way I had it. So you can use the environment that I had, or you can pick one of the ones that come with it. Other thing that we could have done is if we have access to a 360-degree image, which we can take with a 360-degree camera, or you can find these all over the internet. Flickr has some amazing 360-degree libraries that people from all around the world have contributed to. That's actually where that 360-degree image of Paris, if you remember from that video with that second grader showing her 3D model of the Eiffel Tower, came from. So we'll just leave this the way we need. We got a couple of other options in the filters. So we can make this nighttime, we can make it cloudy or foggy. But our focus is going to be actually on the parade. So we don't want to get too into the weeds in the environment, but know that there's a lot of flexibility in here. It's pretty wild. Our next tab, just check the chat, make sure I'm not speed running through this too fast for everyone. Great. All right, I'm going to take a look at our library. And in our library, we've got all kinds of characters, animals, housing, items, transport. It is just a rich library. So I'm in my characters right now, and we can see this is separated by people, jobs, historical. You can see there are various genders and ages and demographics in here. There's a little baby swaddled up. If we keep scrolling to the right, things will start getting a little obscure. We've got an astronaut and a firefighter, some construction workers, cooks. As you can see, there's tennis players, there's this whole Roman collection, there's the Grinch. Get a little deeper, we've got pirates and Santa Claus, and on and on and on. And that was just the characters. We go into animals, and there's land animals, water animals, air animals. yeah, it's wild. There's transportation. We're gonna be bringing a bunch of these things into our parade in just a second. So we've got all of this stuff that comes with CoSpaces. And just so you know, if we go into upload, we could actually go to 3D models and we could do a web search, and it searches the Google Poly library for any 3D model that Google has collected and categorized. So if there's something that's not in this vast library that you want to bring into your parade or VR experience down the road, you can always upload it. You could upload your own 3D model. So if you're going to be in, if there's any chance you're going to be in my session later this afternoon on Tinkercad and 3D modeling, any of those 3D models could also be brought into this platform. So say I really, really want cheese in my parade, but it doesn't exist in the existing library. I can type in cheese and I get all these 3D models that have the word cheese in it, from a cheeseburger to cheese pizza to a block of cheese. Yeah, just to blow your mind on how open and flexible this is. There's just so much. And then of course you can upload your own if you've got a 3D model from somewhere else. We're not going to deal with that for the sake of this parade, but just know that that power is available. So back in the library, we're going to hop into characters. We're going to bring our first character into the parade. So I'm just going to grab our first character, and we're just dragging right from the library. We can see that it's placing it. I can choose where to place this. I'm going to place it kind of in front of this yellow house. And if I use my scroll wheel, I'm doing that with my mouse, but depending on how you scroll, if you scroll in and out, you can zoom in and out of this environment also. We can see that character is.
Quick question.
Yep. Absolutely.
Is all this stuff included in the free version as well?
Yes, everything we're going to be doing in this workshop is included in the free version. And when we get to the end, I'll give you a code that can give you access to the full code, and that will give you the paid version of stuff, which includes physics and some advanced coding. But there's nothing that we're going to be covering in today's workshop that isn't included in the free version.
And then another question is, many of my characters and etc. are locked. Is that because I had an account before joining the class?
That's possible. There may be, I mean, the basic characters should be available to everybody, but as you get deep into some of the nuanced characters, some of those may be locked for only the pro version. And I'll get into the details of the pro versus the free version when we get towards the end of the presentation. But again, know that everything that we're covering today in this session can be done with the free version of CoSpaces. All right, let me remove her and we'll bring a new character in just to kind of reboot that. So again, I'm just finding the character that I want to bring in, and I'm going to grab her and just drag her in front of that house. And when I drag her in, I get these 4 options. If I click away from her and click her again, I get these 4 options again. The bottom right is the kind of that box that expands out, and that is to scale things. And sorry, just checking that chat. And if I click and drag that up, my character gets larger, and we could have a giant walking down this parade. I'm going to try to make it a little more to scale with the houses, but completely open for you to do with this however you want to do this. My next option is the lift. So if I just click and drag her around, it's kind of on that XY plane. But if I wanted her up in the sky, that allows me to move her up that Z axis, which is great. We've got 2 other options in the top. So our top left is that box with the rotation. That is rotation mode. So we give that a click and we can rotate in all 3 axes. I'm going to grab the blue one and turn her so she's walking this way, because my parade route is going to start back here and walk down the road. You can do it however you want, but due to where this camera is positioned, that seems to make sense for me. And of course, I can just click and move her around. But if I want some detail on that, my upper right option gives me my X, Y, and Z. I can be very, very detailed. So those are some basic tools for this character. One thing that I do is that anytime I make a change inside of CoSpaces, almost the first thing that I do is I click play and preview what it looks like. And it allows me to confirm, is it what I want to do, or do I want to tweak things? So we'll give this a quick play. and looks good. She's standing on the road. She's kind of passively swinging her arms a little bit. That's kind of her idle state. So we'll go back with that back button, and let's add some character to this. So if I just single left click, I get my general positioning menu. But if I right click, I get a lot of power in here. We're going to be dealing with code today. So we're going to be doing like 2 lines of programming. Don't be intimidated by it. This is going to be the most basic intro entry to programming ever, which is also great for students. We're going to do a little bit in the speech. We're going to do a little bit in the animation. We're going to do a little bit in the material. So let's start in material. So material for this character, I'm just going to move her over because I want to see this in real time. I can change the color of her shirt. Let's see if I can. I'm just going to bring her over here temporarily so we can see that. I can make her shirt different colors. You can see that's changing in the background. I can change the same for her pants or shorts. I can also change her skin tone. If that selection that I want doesn't appear in this, I can always go into customize color and I can put it in a hex. So this could be literally any color. So if you wanted that to be the colors of your school for the clothing or that tweaking that skin tone, absolutely. We can also change the color of the hair. And we can change the color of the eyes, which if you zoomed in real close, you would see that attention to detail. The other thing that is included in here is opacity, which I didn't think was very useful until I had a bunch of students around Halloween discover they could make all of their characters 50% opacity and turn them into ghosts, which was an incredibly creative purpose of using this. All right, so I've changed my materials quite a bit. I'm gonna drag her back onto the parade route. I'm gonna rotate her around. And now we're gonna look at what is probably the most fun part of CoSpaces, which is hopping into the animations. So if I right click on this character again, and I've got animation, and right now her posture is neutral, which is totally fine, but we could choose any of these. So we could do, let's say kneel, and she's now kneeling down on the ground. We can come back in and we could choose something besides a posture. We're looking for something parade-ish. So let's look for something that's a little kind of celebrating or cheering or walking down the street. And we can look at reactions. She can be aggressive, she can agree, she can be cheering, she can be clapping. Some of these might be good for the parade, but I'm looking for something a little more action. How about dancing? If we come out of there, we saw that quick little animation, but if we click play preview, see she is dancing. And she'll keep dancing forever. And of course, hop out of that. If you're not seeing that animation, make sure that you're right clicking, because that's what brings up this dark menu as opposed to the position menu. And you should absolutely have access to animation. If you don't, then it's something I haven't seen before. But I ran through a similar workshop like this with a group of people yesterday and didn't have that issue. So if you're having trouble getting on the animation or material, we can definitely try to troubleshoot that because you shouldn't have that issue. All right, so we've got our character. She's animated and ready to work her way down the parade. I mean, she's dancing and loving the parade right now, but let's have her come down this parade route and get some cheering going on. Yes, if you're on the iPad, the interface is a little bit different. I think if you're trying to do this on the iPad, it may be a double tap to bring up that dark menu with more pieces, just because we don't have the mouse buttons on the iPad. You can do all of this on the iPad. I had a lot of students do it on the iPad. There's a couple little tweaks that just aren't the same as using a keyboard and a mouse. How's everyone in the chat? Oh, great. Thank you, Maud. All right, so we've got our character. Again, we're playing. Our character is dancing. Let's right click or double tap if you're on an iPad and give her some speech. Parade. Virtual conference 2021. And we click out of that and she's got a speech bubble. She's ready to go. She's cheering. And now if we click play, We could see that speech bubble kind of moves along with her. But none of this is good if people aren't marching and actually doing the parade. Right now, this is more of a block party. So let's take a step back. This is where we're going to do the most fundamental basic programming you'll maybe ever do in your life. The first thing that we need to do is that we need to turn on programming on for this character. Because you may be developing a VR experience with hundreds or thousands of different objects and characters in here, we need to turn on pieces to be part of the programming to keep that clean. So again, we're going to do that right click, and we've done material and animation and these other pieces, but we're going to do code. And all we need to do here is use in CoBlocks. I'm going to turn that on, and now it's going to be available for us to program with. And we can see that this character is named Casual Girl. Just change that to girl to simplify that. And next to our play button is a code button. We click that code, and we'll see that I already have a little program in here. And if we read this program like a sentence, it's saying that when play is clicked, we're going to turn that logo. And if I click that logo, it's called logo. We're going to turn that logo, it's going to spin clockwise around the y-axis, 360 degrees. And it's going to take 5 seconds to do it. And I put that in a forever loop. So when we hit play, this will just rotate forever and ever and ever until I stop the simulation. But this is a more complicated program than even we're going to deal with. And this is just 4 lines of code. So what we're going to do is next to the actual program are types of programming components that we can drag into this. And we're going to look at transform, because that's really how to move things. We can change people's actions. There's events. It's quite rich. You can tap into these and kind of poke around and find the one you're looking for. But I always find that I can usually search for a key term, and it filters it down and makes it simple. So if I just type in the word move, these are my options for moving things. And this one looks like the sentence I'm looking for. So when play is clicked, I'm going to move girl. She's going to move 1 meter forward, and it's going to take her 1 second to do it. We're going to drag that into this part of the programming. And we're going to talk about this code for a little bit. So we've told this to, so programming, almost always in programming languages, things happen 1 step at a time. And the problem with that could be that if I put this girl, she's waiting to do this, but if this never ends, if this is forever, then this girl will never get to make this move, because this is never going to end. So by running parallel, we're creating multiple tasks in here. So this is saying, drag that over a little bit, you'll see there are 2 spaces in here. So this logo is going to happen, and while this logo is spinning in its own little program, this girl's going to be moving in her little bit of the program, because these things are happening parallel to each other. I'm going to change these a little bit just because, you know, a lot of working in CoSpaces is kind of like building IKEA furniture. The first time you do a lot of this stuff, it's going to take you an hour. The second chair you build is going to take 10 minutes. So a lot of it's just kind of building the intuition on where things are and where to click and the scale of things. So you'll get used to it. You'll pick this up really quickly. Again, I do this for first graders all the way to adults. So there's a scope in here for everyone. So we're going to move this girl. We're going to say she's going to move 10 meters forward. It's going to take her 5 seconds to do it. We never know what that's going to look like until we actually do our preview. So let's click our play. We can see she's moving. And then she stopped. So that was her 10 meters, and it took her that couple seconds to do it. So we'll get out of play mode. We'll click back. We're looking at our code again. And that was a pretty good start. I'm going to grab her and just position her back a little bit, because I want her to come maybe 30 meters. And it's going to take her 10 seconds to do. And let's see if that looks like her dancing her way down the parade route. That's looking pretty good to me. It's always so silly and fun to see these avatars dancing. Take a step back. I'm going to change her animation to something a little more neutral. So let's do no animation. The code will still happen. So if we click play, she's still moving that 30 meters over 10 seconds, Just looks like she's moonwalking. So it's often a combination of programming the movement and the appropriate animation to make that fun. So now she's back to dancing her way down. We see the speech bubbles tagging along with her. When I'm in play mode, again, I can use my arrow keys and my mouse to kind of float through this space. So I can see she stopped right there at the end of the parade route. That's coincidence that my number happened to set her right there perfectly. And looking good. So let's add another character to this. Eventually we're going to come back to this and have her turn around and like continue to loop this parade route multiple times. But let's bring in another character and get a little more silly with this. And again, you don't have to be using the exact characters that I am. I mean, part of this is going to be me jumping back into that classroom and seeing all of your different parades, which tend to end up with dinosaurs and whales and all kinds of ridiculous things as people discover them inside of the library. So I'm going to bring my second character in, just to bring another human into the place. And again, comes in a little bit small. So scale up, about the same size. You rotate this guy around so he's facing this direction. And we'll move him off to the side a little bit while we're working with him. So that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to move her over. So she's on that side of the street, and we'll make space for our other character to be on this side of the street. Again, I am always hitting this play button, even when I do like the tiniest little thing, just to see if things are looking the way I want them to look. That's looking pretty good start. She's still coming down the parade route. She's coming off the road a little bit, but that's just a little tweak to the rotation so that she doesn't veer off. But let's do something besides a character, besides one of these humans. Let's go into animals. You got all of these options. I love the unicorn. So I bring this unicorn in, and just like everything else, I'm going to scale this unicorn up a little bit. If you don't like the angle that you're viewing, you can always click outside of any of your characters and drag and view this from a different point of view. Let's grab my unicorn. A lot of the tools are the same with the rotation and scale and lift. So we'll bring this unicorn in. That's looking fun. Again, if I right click on this unicorn, I get a lot of those same options, but you'll find that the details are different. So if I go into material, I can make this a purple unicorn, which I rather like. That looks good. Let me come in, let's look at the animation. We'll come back to this animation, but I want you to see the animations are different because these are unicorn animations. So there is no dancing while laughing animation, but there is running and trotting and eating and doing things that unicorns do. And we can always do a quick preview. There's that unicorn eating the pavement. So we'll change that. All right, so our character, let's get this character riding on the back of this unicorn, and then we'll have the unicorn going down the parade route with our boy on top. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into that right click again, and we can see there's this attach menu. So again, another little super powerful piece of CoSpaces. And when I click attach, these blue dots appear all over my scene. And these are all places where I can attach this character. Could be the roof of the house. Nope. Let's undo that. We've got our undo and redo. Another really important thing to understand about CoSpaces is that there's no saving, that all of this is being hosted and saved dynamically in the cloud in real time, which you'll see in a little bit later when I go in and jump into your parades. As you're moving things and designing your parade, I'm able to see that in real time, which is fantastic as a facilitator who needs to see what students are doing to give them feedback or help them with things that they're working on inside of these spaces. So let's right-click this character again. We're going to attach. We're going to put him on the back of this unicorn. That again is not exactly what we're looking for. That's not really riding the unicorn. So let's take a step back from that. So we're going to right-click and detach. So he's no longer connected to that unicorn. First thing we're going to do is let's find an animation that's a little more like sitting on the horse. So we go into maybe a posture. And there is one. There's one called riding a bike. There's one called riding a horse. Click that ride a horse, and that posture has changed to riding an invisible horse. That's pretty decent. Let's rotate this character around. jump to preview again. Looks a little silly, but it's in progress. We know where this is going. We'll come back. We're gonna right click on our character again and attach and select that blue dot on the back of our unicorn. That is looking much more realistic for a purple unicorn on a parade. All right, so now these are connected because they're attached to it. So if I grab the unicorn, wherever the unicorn goes, that boy is attached to the top of it. So let's bring the unicorn back a little bit. Rotate that unicorn around. And we're going to program that unicorn similar to how our character walked down the parade route. So we're going to hop into code. And there is no space for me to add a third thing to happen. So if I were to go into transform and move, and I go to my drop-down box, it's only the girl and the logo. So I missed a step. Anybody have any guesses on what step I missed from what we needed to do to make our girl character programmable? Any guesses? What we needed to do was, one of the steps we took with the girl was when we right-clicked, we had to go into code and enable her to be used in CoSpaces. This is to keep the clutter out of these drop-downs once you've got thousands of objects and things going on in here. So for my unicorn, I also need to right-click and enable in CoBlocks. And now when I hop back here, there's my unicorn. We're going to bump that to 30 meters. It's going to take 5 seconds. And then we're going to play the preview. And it's not going to work. We'll see if anybody can tell me why, and then we'll fix it. So we'll hit play. Our girl's moving down. We know we programmed this unicorn to go along this parade route, but the unicorn is not going down the parade route. Our girl's coming down. She's reaching the end of it. Oh, she reached the end, and now our unicorn's coming down. Why would that be? All right, somebody in the chat. You need another task. Absolutely, that is the correct answer. Thank you. So my programming logic right now is when play is clicked, we're going to move this girl, and unicorn doesn't move until this piece of programming has completed. So until this code has run its course, which takes 10 seconds, unicorn can't go. So we're going to click on this gear and add another task to this. And drag the unicorn down in here. That looks pretty good. Let's test that out and see, the logo should be going, and in parallel to that, the girl should be walking, and in parallel to that, the unicorn should be walking. Let's hit play. Here they all come. Looking pretty good. The unicorn is moving much faster than the girl, which is realistic. They're both going 30 meters, but the unicorn's doing it in half the time, just 5 seconds. Let's bump that to 7. And of course, that unicorn is again doing that moonwalk. Eating is not the appropriate action for a unicorn walking down a parade. So let's go into that unicorn, change that animation to trotting's probably good. Maybe walking. But we'll see what trotting looks like. And we're always making adjustments because all of this is happening in real time. So we can simulate all these mistakes and errors and as we try these things out. That's a good looking trot. All right, our character hits the end of it and is still doing this animation. So let's have our unicorn reach the end of it. And as they're done walking, let's change that animation. So let's go back into our code. And we're going to search for something called animation. And there is one. We can set the animation of a character to a different animation. So let's drag that into our piece, because now this is saying that this unicorn is going to move, and when it's done, then this happens, because these things are not happening in parallel. They're happening in sequence. We don't want it to be the girl. We're going to change it to the unicorn, and we're going to choose our unicorn animation. I like the idea of it rearing at the end. And let's see how this fleshed out. So we're going to click play. Here comes our characters. 3 more seconds. Our unicorn's going to stop. That animation's going to change. Awesome. What a celebration. One more thing I want to show you in here is when I click play, I can also click on my code, and I can see what parts of the code are running in real time. So we can see that the animation is grayed out until it triggered, and now the animation took place. So a great way to troubleshoot any programming you might be having is to see the actual code running in real time while your simulation's going. Pretty fantastic. Okay, any other characters we should bring in here? That covered quite a bit. I do want to show you how to bring a flying dragon into this. But I also want to make sure that we were saving time to see each other's projects and to have time to wrap things up towards the end. But we still have 20, 25 minutes. We're doing great. All right, so let's, any big questions so far? Everybody doing okay? Looks like we're all doing great. All right, so now let's add that new character in, because we're gonna have a new way of making this next character move. So I'm gonna again hop into my library. Yeah, we could get a plane in here. There's some rockets, some spaceships, buses. But let's do another animal. And I'm gonna filter this by air. So here are my air animals. There's a dragon, there's a pterodactyl, there's a butterfly, there's a parrot. It's pretty incredible that all these things are just available for us to use. I'm gonna bring in this dragon, which is a large dragon. Looks great. Again, I can position this dragon like any of my other characters. Again, we're gonna raise this character up at some point because our dragon's gonna be flying. But this would be similar if we were doing something underwater. I mean, the environments in here are super, super powerful. Everybody get in the chat. I missed the first few minutes, but what is the difference between a 3D environment and a 360-degree image? Excellent question. So a 3D environment actually has 3 dimensions to it. Like this dragon and like we're seeing here. A 360-degree image is kind of like our background of this, where we can't actually walk through these trees or over these mountains because this is a 360-degree image that's wrapped around our simulation that we're in. So if I go to play here, we can see these 3D objects are in here, but they're surrounded by this it's 2D, but it's 360 degrees that's surrounding an entire place. Without that, we would be in the void, which is fine. I mean, we're building our simulation here, and when we build things in augmented reality, we don't want there to be a background on it because we want these things to be showing up in our living rooms. Which we're absolutely going to see. Before we are done here, you are going to see my parade and some of your parades walking through my kitchen here. It'll be great. So I'm going back to edit, give that 360-degree image back into the background to give it more of an environment. Click that to bring it down. So again, as we click this dragon, we can position this dragon anywhere, rotate. I can make this dragon ridiculously huge or a tiny little pet. If we right click on that dragon, a lot of the same basic stuff, but again, in the details. We get into material, you can make a purple dragon, brown dragon, any of these colors, choose your own color. Maybe you know the branding hex code of your university or wherever you're working. You could bring in that Colorado gold. We'll leave that in there. I'm gonna make my dragon red because I want it to be super visible up in the sky. We've got animations for this dragon. They're all dragon related again. So there's the dragon dance. Let's play and see that. That's hysterical. CoSpace is also adding things to this all of the time. So sometimes I come in, there's a new animation, and I love it. We're gonna have this animation flying around the top of the parade, kind of overseeing the event, the celebration. So we'll just pick the fly one. And we can see when we hit play again, it's our dragon flapping its wings, and then it does a gentle soar, and then it'll flap again. So back in edit mode. Could we program this to go 50 meters forward and then turn 180 degrees and then go 30 meters forward? Yeah, we could. And we will do that for the girl. But let's do, you know what, while I'm saying it, let's do it for the girl real quick, and then we'll hop back to this dragon and I'll show you the smooth way of creating that cool path for that dragon to follow. Because it won't take long to get this girl going. So right now we know that this girl walks down the parade route, she ends about here and stops. So I'm going to go into my search for my code box, and I'm going to put in turn. And there's a couple of options in here. There's some of the radius, but I just want this one. So I'm going to turn this girl, what direction, how many degrees, and how long until they do it. That looks great to me. So we're going to drag this in. And if I'm wrong, I'll just drag it out and bring something else in and try again and keep hitting play until I get what I want it to look like. But reading this, it sounds pretty logical. This girl's going to come 30 meters down the path. It's going to take 10 seconds for her to do that. She's then going to turn clockwise 180 degrees. It's going to take her 1 second to do that. And then she's ready to go back up the parade route. So let's change that to 3. So it's not just a quick, abrupt spin. Maybe just 2. And we're going to have her do this exact same movement, going back up and turning around and coming back down in a loop. So I can grab this one block that I've already programmed here. And if I right click or click on my 3-dot menu, I can duplicate it. And I'm just going to order that so that now she's walking 30 meters, then she's going to turn 180 degrees, she's going to turn around, and then she's going to walk 30 meters back up. So let's also duplicate that turn. So now she'll hit that turn, and then she'll be facing this way just the way that she started. Great, let's give it a play, see if that's working. Again, I can view my code here, and I can see that it's in this piece right now. Here she comes. Now it has switched to the turn. She's going back up the path. Absolutely what we would expect. And now she's turned around, and we can see in the code, now she's stopped. But this is a parade. I want her doing this all day, every day. So let's have it back into our programming, and we're going to add one more tiny little piece in here. So similar to how we've got this similar to how we've got the logo that is turning and rotating, it's taking 5 seconds to do that full rotation, and it's doing that forever. We're going to add that forever in here too. So I could find that in here. I could go into control and find that forever, but I just like to type and quickly pull it up. But I could do some things. I could have, I could decide how many times she's going to rotate. There's wait commands in here. I mean, if you really dig into CoSpaces, it's a lot like Scratch, that drag and drop programming that almost anybody can do. I bring that forever in here. And I'm going to move these 4 pieces in that forever statement. And now let's see if that does what we want it to do. We'll hit play. She should come down, turn, go back, turn, and she should just be doing this forever and ever and ever. There's her turn. She's going to come back. It'll just take a second, and then we're going to make that dragonfly, and then I want to see what kind of projects you guys are working on. It's the best part of these presentations is seeing what kind of weird stuff people create in their parades. All right, we've tested that. That's absolutely working. So let's hop out of that and do this with a dragon, with a more of a fluid pathway. So hopping in my library, went into animals, I'm gonna go to air. I like that dragon. My dragon's in there. Now we're gonna go into a different category in here, which we haven't seen yet. It's in special. Inside of special, we've got multiple cameras. So one thing that my students did is that when they were film students, and then I did it again with theater students, was that they recreated a scene from their play with the stage, and then added multiple cameras in here so that they could hit play and view it from stage left and see what the stage hands are going to see from that scene happening and what they need to do to prepare for the following scene. Or we could see that entire scene from bird's eye view or from the audience, and we could create these cameras in here almost to create a short film. You absolutely could create a short film using CoSpaces. My film students also use this for a lot of blocking, because you can also animate these cameras to do dolly effects and moves. It's a great example of how much of a rabbit hole just one little magical piece of CoSpaces can be. We're not going to touch the camera today because I rather like where we've got that camera set up, but just know that that potential's there for whatever you can think of. But we're going to bring in this, these are paths. So we've got a round path, a path with square angles, and then just a line. But I want our dragon kind of doing a loop above us. So I'm going to bring that in and scale that up a little bit. And you'll notice it has these blue shapes on it. I can click on these and give this a little more of an organic shape. Again, I can hit undo if I do something on accident. That looks pretty good. Let me grab this. I'm just going to rotate it because eventually I want it to be happening above the parade route. So if this were a little bit longer, that's looking closer to what I would expect. And I can always tweak these. Like nothing in here is set in stone. So I've got my dragon. I've got my character. I don't think I turned my flying back on. There we go. My dragon's ready to fly. I'm going to hop back into code. And we're going to add another task. And these can get quite complex once you've got many tasks. Some of my even super young students have created incredibly complex programs with different characters doing different things on their own timelines. It's wild. Back into my search, I'm going to type in the word path. This is going to move a character around a path that is named and how long to go around that path. So similar to what we've seen before. So let's bring that in. We definitely don't want it to be girl. But it's only got my round path, unicorn, and logo. And I don't want to move the round path. You can see that round path is the name of this path by default. It's there, but of course I need to right-click my dragon and turn it on in CoBlocks so I can program with it. And now it's in my dropdown. Before I get too far into it, let's again preview and make sure that I'm on the right path. Turning, there's my dragon. It's following that path that is invisible when you're in play mode, but again, stops right there, which is a silly thing for a dragon to do. So we're going to come back in. We're going to add that forever statement in there one more time so our dragon is forever looping the parade. This drag and drop interface is so great for budding programmers. Let's give it another play before I make that tweak. Oh, dragon's not moving on that path at all. Though. What'd I do? If you see what I did, I accidentally dragged it in and made it part of this task for that unicorn. So it's not going to do that dragging around the path until that unicorn has gone down the path and reared up, which is not what we want. We want it to be its own task happening in parallel to that. So now we hit play. And there's our dragon. And that dragon's going to come around that whole loop and not stop. Keeps going forever. The only thing wrong with this dragon still is that it's still on the ground. So we'll grab our path and we're going to bring that up and position it above our parade route. That's pretty good. And we're going to give that a play to preview. And there's our dragon going over our parade the whole time. Fantastic. All right, we are down to our last 10 minutes. We definitely want to see what everyone else is working at and go to my wrap-up slides. But just to show you, again, so much power inside of CoSpaces. It's incredible. So we talked about being able to upload your own 3D models and images and videos and sound. Could I absolutely, let's add one more sound in here. We're not gonna have time. I could record audio of myself talking. And saying, I love this parade, and then attach that to a character, and I could make that part of the programming. So when that unicorn reaches the end and rears up saying, hooray, Virtual Conference 2021, and it could be my voice or your student voice inside of there. You could add little video panels of characters where that video only triggers when somebody walks through the door and looks at the TV that you've built inside of the house. Really open-ended sandbox. Okay, I didn't mean to do it that quickly. So I'm in my parade, but again, I'm the facilitator of this class. So I've created that based on that same template that I shared with everybody. But for you to see what happens in the back end, if I go just back into my CoSpaces, here are all of the CoSpaces I've created. Here's a dental patient empathy training module that we're piloting over here to create a safe space for patients to talk to students of different demographics and health situations, and a way to kind of sandbox having difficult conversations with patients that are in a safe place without a human being to be anxious about or to offend. So that's something we're dealing with. So we've got CoSpaces up here, and we can see here's my CoSpace of the one that I worked on. This is the one that I used as an assignment and sent to all of you. So if I go to those classes, here are all the classes that I've done in this, and here's ours, and I can see all of your projects, and I can click into any of these. So I'm going to go into Kelly's, and Kelly has created the giant woman in the back of the parade route. If I click play, you can see she's got a little animation. And what I can do is that if Kelly were also in her CoSpace and she were moving this character around, we would see that character moving around on its own. But then I could also make some changes and give some feedback on, yeah, I saw you did this, but let me show you how to program that path going back and forth. Pretty great. So I've got open access to everyone's projects in real time. So again, there's no saving. So any little change you make dynamically syncs to the CoSpaces cloud, and I've got access and visibility to all of it. Let's take another look. Cool, we got dragons and elephants coming down the parade route. Yeah, awesome. So a great way for me to hop in and project this on the wall or share on Zoom and show my other students, look what this student's doing and how they did it. We can take a look at their code and see what they're going on. Super great. All right, let's view this in VR AR quickly, and then we'll do our wrap up, because this 75 minutes goes really, really quickly. So let me share my iPad. All right, so we're now viewing my iPad screen. So this is my CoSpace. And again, I'm just using my finger on my iPad to move this around. And the interface is nearly identical. The exception being that when I click play to preview this, I've got these options down here in the bottom right corner. So if I've got a Google Cardboard or another device that splits my VR into two visions to create that 3D effect, that's an option. And again, I'm just moving my iPad around. So I'm looking up, I'm looking down, as if I had this strapped to my head. X out of that. My first option on the left is VR mode. So this is me, and I can walk around my physical space. And I can get close to these characters. I can take a look around. Hop back out of that. What I think is the funnest part of this is the center button in that bottom right corner, which is AR mode. So you're looking at my kitchen floor, and it'll take a second. Tap, and now here is my kitchen. There's a screen I'm presenting on, but here is that parade happening in my physical environment. True augmented reality. So we can walk up to these characters, we can see them come down, I can come over this way as far as my arm can reach without having to stand up. So we've got a full option of VR and AR experiences that are just pushing dynamically to all of these devices. All right, switch my sharing back. All right, we've got 5 minutes. How's everybody doing? Looks like everyone's still doing great. So let me hop back to my slides. So we've covered a ton of content. And again, we've only scratched the surface. We didn't get into scenes. So we were working in a single scene. You can create multiple scenes. So if you want to have one in the daytime and then one in the nighttime, you can have characters that will trigger that scene to toggle. You can have that happen in the code. We've got physics, collisions, so you can have dominoes falling or create a bowling alley or things colliding into each other. You can simulate those car accidents or earthquakes like we've done. Whew, it's deep. And again, you can bring in any 3D models that you have. So CoSpaces comes with that super rich library, but of course, it's open. So you can bring in anything that you like. So that was a lot of fun. So what about my standards? How does this tie into things that need to be appropriate for digital education? Well, this ties in directly into the International Society of Technology Education Standards for learning age digital age learning environments, talking about building and managing digital tools that are resources for teachers to build these environments. This is also a digital collaboration and communication tool. One thing that I didn't show you, just due to lack of time, is that I created those templates for each one of you individually to be building your parade. What I could have also done is grouped you together and put 3 of you in a parade together. And you need to be careful not to step on each other. So it's also a It's an adventure in collaboration for a lot of students who are, hey, you moved my road when I'm building this road, and then they have to kind of develop their rules and norms as to how they're going to collaborate together in this virtual makerspace. That's a powerful, powerful side effect that comes with building things in here, and the global collaboration standard. So these projects can be shared with students all around the world, either building collaboratively or experiencing collaboratively. Virtual Plate Project is a great example of that. It was all done in CoSpaces, where students from all around the world were collaborating on that project together and continue to. Just a little bit about where augmented reality in School of Dental Medicine is going. So we're building these so that they work natively and so that they work directly inside of Canvas. So all of our students have a one-to-one iPad program. So every student has an iPad. And they can go into Canvas and they just tap a link, and that model of that tooth or that surgical instrument or anything appears on the desktop in front of them, allowing them to walk around that, to scale it the size of the house and walk into a cavity crack, to be able to put labels on those models and send it back to an instructor for feedback. It's really becoming just a part of how we teach and learn, because especially in a remote environment, so much of what we're teaching and learning is two-dimensional versions of 3D stuff in the real world. And this starts to sort of bridge that gap. Excuse me. So we've been using the free version of CoSpaces, which comes with everything that we were working on today, but doesn't get into the advanced physics stuff and some of the advanced coding and things, and the classroom management part of it. But you've got 30 free days of using full CoSpaces if you'd like to. I've got a trial code as just one of the heavy users of CoSpaces. So if you sign up, it'll ask you if you have a trial code. You put in COS Clint C, and it'll give you 30 days free of the complete unlocked version of CoSpaces to give you that flavor of that. But again, even the free version of CoSpaces is really, really flexible. But you might outgrow it. Support, for sure. I know technically all of our schools and units all compete for admissions and faculty and all of these things, but I really believe that at the heart of education, we're all on the same team. So all of these projects can be collaborative, and we can always talk about how to implement. If you've got an idea that maybe this spurred a little bit, but you're not sure how to achieve it, reach out and let's have that conversation. I mean, I love doing these types of workshops, and the networking that comes through this is awesome, but it's also really great to see what people do with this stuff outside. So please stay in touch. Here's my contact info, email, Twitter. But this presentation will also be shared with you post-conference. We've got 1 minute left, which isn't the amount of time I meant to leave for questions, but we've got 1 minute for any questions if anyone's got it. If not, enjoy the rest of the conference. I'll be doing a 3D modeling workshop at 1 o'clock this afternoon. If you want to hop in and bring the knowledge of this into that, because any of those 3D models could be pushed into CoSpaces, which is awesome. Or continue to work on this. This sandbox that you've been working in is going to stay open for 6 months at least. So feel free to jump in and continue to play around, build other scenes, do things besides parades, and be in touch if there's any way we can collaborate, or if you just need a point in the right direction on any of this. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your conference. This was a really great start. Thanks so much.